Scott, good to see how you're doing. You're the first one in today. How you been? How's things, Scott? Evening, Miles and CMF. Joe, good to see you. How you doing? How you been, brother? Pure, good to see you. How you doing? Evening, how you been? Mike, good to see you. How you doing? Good day, brother. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Tor, good to see you. How you doing? Hey, brother Miles. Comatose, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Scott, let's go. Good, Miles. Let's go, Scott. Hi, brother Camel. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? George, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good day, Dale. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Butch, good to see you, Miles. How you doing, Butch? How you been? Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? Hi, Miles of CMF. Dennis, good to see you. How you doing? Yes, I'm first again today. Let's go, Scott. All good. Let's go, Mike. Good evening, Miles of CMF. Free and Forever. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good morning, Miles of CMF. Good to see you. How you doing, Ghost Burner? How you been? Good evening, Miles and all CMF. Happy Halloween. Let's go, JP. Happy Halloween, everyone. So let's do a breakdown of what we're going to be going through on tonight's live, because there's a lot of things happening. A lot of things are happening, to be fairly honest. Vibe, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? I'll just plug this into charge as well, just in case. There we go. Okay, on tonight's live, we're going to be talking about a mixture of topics. And there's some geopolitical tensions going on as well. What's up, Miles? What's up, CMF? Kerry, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and family. Ian, good to see you. How you doing, bro? How you been? Now, what we're going to be talking about on tonight's live is regarding the $3.3 billion that's right now trading, the trading surge that's happening on BlackRock's essentially ETF space. And then we're going to be talking about on tonight's live regarding the matters of who is the creator of Bitcoin. Now, I know for a fact that we've covered this topic before on who's the creator of Bitcoin. It was basically a TV channel that was going to do this inside the United States, revealing who's the founder of Bitcoin and so on. But the same thing happened inside of the United Kingdom. Apparently, someone claiming to be the creator of Bitcoin. So we're going to go through that on tonight's live as well. We're also going to be talking about the SEC on tonight's live as well, because the SEC is under fire from the Blockchain Association, because the SEC has damaged the crypto space roughly between $400 and $26 million. And then we're going to be going through the topic of Chris Lawson on tonight's live as well, how Chris Lawson is predicting either way essentially the presidential election goes, crypto policies and regulations will still be on the way. And then we're going to be talking about Florida on tonight's live as well. Yesterday, I revealed essentially that Florida, the chief economic officer of Florida essentially was talking about how he wants to introduce Bitcoin pensions in Florida and so on. Now we have a little bit more updates on some other matters that he did discuss on cryptocurrency as well. So we're going to go through that and how much Florida has spent so far inside the cryptocurrency space market. And then we're going to be talking about on tonight's live regarding something that I said might still happen, which is geopolitical tensions, which is essentially Iran versus Israel. Apparently, the geopolitical tensions between Iran and Israel are in high tensions once more, according to multiple sources. So we're going to talk about that on tonight's live as well, regarding Iran versus Israel, because apparently high tensions are on the way again. Then we're going to be talking about Donald Trump on tonight's live as well. Donald Trump celebrating essentially the day of the Bitcoin white paper. And then we're going to be talking about the Bank of International Settlements. So yesterday it was on the news that the Bank of International Settlements has decided to withdraw itself from the mBridge, essentially, developments. We're going to go into detail and some bullet points on the matters of why the Bank of International Settlements has decided to maybe abandon the mBridge, essentially, or is it going to be abandoning mBridge? And then we're going to be talking about tonight's live regarding Crypto.com. Crypto.com acquires essentially an SEC registered broker. That's basically like checkmate what Crypto.com has done, acquiring a company that is already regulated fully by the SEC, and there's no way around it. Then we're going to be talking about a new stablecoin being released, the AUSD, essentially the Australian stablecoin has been released, and it's being backed by Van Eck and State Street. We're going to talk about that on tonight's live as well. Then we're going to be going through the news topic on tonight's live regarding Coinbase. Coinbase essentially committing $25 million for the 2026 elections as well, midterm elections. because Coinbase wants to keep, going forward crypto friendly all the way. So they're betting money on 2026 as well. We haven't even made it 2025, but they're already putting some donations down for 2026. And then we're going to be talking about tonight's live regarding Franklin Templeton as well. Franklin Templeton essentially launching their tokenized money fund on one particular chain. We're also going to be going through the news topic on Van Eck on tonight's live as well. Van Eck backing essentially a gaming project inside the crypto space, which I'll reveal to you. We rarely talk about gaming projects on this live. And then we're going to go through the news topic on tonight's live regarding Grayscale proposal to convert essentially the massive ETF that Grayscale is creating, which is a fund of Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and so on. It's a mixture of crypto assets together for an ETF that the SEC is now reviewing, which is impressive. So those are the news topics we're going to go from tonight's live regarding the SEC and the ETF for XRP, regarding geopolitical tensions between Iran and Israel is rising again one more time, regarding Donald Trump, regarding Crypto.com acquiring a new company, Van Eck, Franklin Templeton, a lot of things to go from tonight's live. So before we go through any of that, and the first topic we're going to cover on tonight's live is regarding the $3.3 billion a surge that's happening right now inside the crypto space. Before we go through any of that, I just want to say to everyone, welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, this is CMF Live. My name is Miles. I go by the persona of Crypto Miles, and the CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family. And on this live, every single night, you can tune in where I talk about the most recent things that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. We also do live Q&As on this live as well, which means if you do have any questions, don't essentially be shy. Put them down to the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. And this is episode 193 of the CMF Live, which is absolutely amazing. And I want to say thank you so much to everybody right now that's retweeting this live. I'm getting notifications. Thanks so much to everyone that's retweeting this live right now on X, who's liking this live on X. I'm putting a comment outside the video on X as well. And thanks so much to everyone on YouTube who's watching us right now and also liking the video. So before we go through the first news topic, let's go to the comment section first, and then we go straight into the first news. Let's see where we were first. Let's see where we were first inside the comment section, and then we go straight for the first news. JP's in the house. Let's go. Evening, Miles and CMF. Happy Halloween. Jason, good to see you as well. How you doing? Happy Halloween, everyone. Share the live, folks. Let's go, Scott. Hello, Miles and family. T, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Orphan, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? What's up, Miles and CMF? Hope all is well. Happy Halloween, though. Let's go, Ray. Happy Halloween. Free Diddy for Halloween. Hell no. Leave Diddy inside the prison cell. What's going on with the markets all red? I'll explain to you. Hello to my CMF on YouTube. Good to see you as well, Scott. How you doing? Okay, there's a weird person inside the comments. There's a lot of weird people inside the comment section. Let me just get. I think Halloween is making people go weird. Share the live. Let's go, Scott. You are okay. I've already stopped this person once. Okay, just Halloween. Evening, Miles and CMF. Good to see you as well. How you doing? Good evening, brother Miles and the rest of the CMF and the rest of the crypto community. Funky brother, good to see you as well. How you doing, CMF? Let's go, funky brother. Miles, billions got wiped out today, where the data reports were really bad. Yeah, the data reports were quite bad. I mean, the data reports for Coinbase was drastic as well. I was on a crypto space about half an hour ago for like 10 minutes, and they were talking about the creator of Bitcoin. It was quite funny when they were coming up with law. Morning, Miles and CMF. Shelly, good to see you as well. How you doing? Morning, how you been? Red Bull, okay, I already moved that person. Any news on XLM? Any news on XLM? There's really weird people inside this live. Yeah, one, Coinbase. Coinbase essentially with XLM and silver is what's going to be happening. Ian, thank you so much for the £20 donation. Absolutely amazing. It's going straight towards setting up the CMF hedge fund. Absolutely amazing. Thanks so much for the £20 donation. And regarding XLM, yeah, Coinbase, XLM, silver is basically what's going on regarding the CFTC. Now, the first news topic on tonight's live is regarding the $3.3 billion. We're going to go through that, and then we're going to go straight through the news regarding who's the founder of Bitcoin. Once again, we've already covered this once from the US perspective, but now we're going to be covering it from the UK perspective. Now, $3.3 billion trading surge. IBIT sets records and captivates investors. So while the crypto markets might be slightly in red, on the other side, the institutions are still buying in. The expansions of the IBIT US essentially equity has seen it reach the $30 billion asset mark in just 293 days. Exchange-traded funds have never achieved this milestone before. The GLD took 1,790 days to attain the same number, while the JP essentially previously held the record at 1,272 days. The Bitcoin ETF has been the fastest growing ETF in history. The rapid growth of IBIT, essentially the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF, can be attributed to the inflows and prices appreciation observed recently. IBIT traded a $3.3 billion at the highest volume in 6 months. Interestingly, this spike occurred as Bitcoin's price rose by 4% just essentially a few days ago. Typically, ETF volumes increase during downtrends or crises. However, the case suggests that fear essentially missing out the FOMO might have been driving the recent trading frenzy up as well. Hence, the recent price surges may indicate a new wave of interest in IBIT, and the analysts also predict further inflows this week as well. Now, there's a report essentially that was from BlackRock on how much movements they've had and inflows they've had on their Bitcoin ETF space. So the turnover data that reflects substantial volatility in trading activity over the past months. Notably, sharp spikes were essentially evident in July and August. These fluctuations indicated essentially heightened trading engagements among investors as well. The average turnover during this period was approximately $981 million, while recently activity has consistently remained above both the 50-day and 200-day simple moving averages, the SMAs, and the current 50 days SMA cite a $1.033 billion with 200-day SMA at $1.107 billion, highlighting a notable shift in the market dynamics. IBIT's trading partners illustrates increased buying and selling pressures, and these movements suggest essentially that the market is responding vigorously to the changes in asset values. Moreover, trading volume has exceeded both the SMAs and indicating heightened interest in IBIT. Investors appear to be capitalized on recent price trends, and the asset growth and trading volumes demonstrate that the market's changing behavior towards IBIT and US equities, and investors' willingness to engage in this ETF is a clear indicator of its increasing prominence in the financial landscape. So while the markets are a little bit shaky, but they're not too shaky, to be fairly honest, there's still some anticipation going towards the elections of who's going to be the next president. And the institutions are still buying. So while the retail section might think it's a little bit, on shaky grounds, the institutions are very confident. The numbers show for itself. The numbers speak very loud, to be fairly honest. $3.3 billion in Bitcoin ETFs coming in from the IBIT perspective, from BlackRock's perspective. It's massive. So while the retail section might be thinking the markets are shaky, the institutions are heavy foot buying right now. Now, also, to be fairly honest, the reason why there's a lot of purchasing power coming in from Wall Street side is because Wall Street is estimating or pricing in that Trump is going to be the elected candidate for the next president of the United States, which is great if that happens. I'll be fairly honest, very good if that happens, if Trump wins. But that is why essentially Wall Street is going very heavy-footed on the Bitcoin ETF side, to be fairly honest. Now, moving away from the record numbers or milestone that BlackRock just announced, the fastest growing ETF in history, to Satoshi Nakamoto, the founder of Bitcoin, essentially the UK version of the founder of Bitcoin. Essentially, the US, about a week back or 2 weeks back, the US was going to essentially release a documentary of who's the founder of Bitcoin, which didn't really do too well. The UK decided to give their try of who's the founder of Bitcoin. Apparently, one man decided to say, I'm the founder of Bitcoin. I am the persona of Satoshi Nakamoto. Just a few issues with that. And these were the issues. But the other thing is the timeline of this person coming out and suggesting that he is the founder of Bitcoin. So the new fake Satoshi Nakamoto is revealed. Answers were essentially the answers whether he has access to $69 billion in Bitcoin is where the question lies. At much talked about the event held exclusive club in London, journalists finally got to meet the new figure claiming to be Bitcoin's energetic founder, Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, this person is a British person, and he's claiming that he is the founder of Bitcoin. Now, a few things were much of a red flag. So what was intended as a historical statement fell flat on its face, as technical problems and essentially unconvincing evidence left many audience members skeptical of who's the founder of Bitcoin. Is it really this man? The event hosted by the organizers, Charles Anderson, was the essentially event organizer, and he was expected to reveal the Satoshi's true identity and provide definitive proof that he has created the Genesis block, the original block code that launched essentially Bitcoin, that now the $2.5 trillion digital asset industry. But Charles Anderson and the self-proclaimed Satoshi Nakamoto named Stephen Muller, were plagued with technical issues from the start. While the reports from major outlets such as the BBC, this was a very big event. It was a very huge event in London. The founder of Bitcoin, this man claiming he's the guy, Satoshi Nakamoto. The BBC was there. Every single major British news channel was at this event, waiting to see, is this really the founder of Bitcoin? Just a few issues happened. So while the reports from major outlets such as the BBC, the Financial Times, and many other news channels waited essentially Anderson to reveal, there was an issue. Stefan Muller struggled with the internet problems and were unable to essentially power up the laptop they needed. They don't have one of those 3-pin plugs, do you? Is what essentially the question was asked. Anderson asked, hoping for a quick fix. Finally, Stefan Muller took the stage and said, I am here to tell the world that there is no one else in the Bitcoin community who invented this technology. Stefan Muller claimed that Satoshi was essentially an alias he adapted in 2007, but his evidence was far from convincing. When asked about the access to the reported $69 billion worth of essentially Bitcoin under his control, Stefan Muller cited technical issues and claimed he did not have the necessary access keys. So, with the BBC and every single news channel at this major event, this man goes on stage and says, I am the founder of Bitcoin, but I don't have any evidence. According to Stefan Muller, the Bitcoin key was split into 8 pieces, each hidden in computers around the world. The plot of the Christopher Nolan's Tenet essentially movies. Now, he also claimed that he was coincidentally on the run from mysterious groups trying to hack him on his devices and track him. So he was essentially believing that the CIA, the FBI, and the MI6 were after him. The evidence was presented essentially consistent mostly of screenshots of messages allegedly written by Satoshi Nakamoto on early Bitcoin forums. While Stefan Muller on early Bitcoin forums, while Muller assured reporters that they were time-stamped, the blurry screenshots left much to be desired. An HBO documentary that essentially recently was suggested as well said that the developer of Bitcoin was Peter Todd. But now we have a second person claiming to be the founder of Bitcoin, a random person by the name of Stefan Muller inside the United Kingdom. Big event. He went on stage, said, I am the founder of Bitcoin, in front of the BBC, the Daily Mail. Every single British news channel was there. Every journalist was there. And when they asked him to prove it, he said, I can't. And then he started showing random screenshots to say that he was the one in the chat forums. In general, it was a very, very, very embarrassing event. This man should be ashamed of himself for going on stage, providing no evidence, and can't even fire up a laptop. Apparently, he struggled to turn on his laptop and connect it to the internet. But he's the founder of Bitcoin. But the thing is, why now is what it is. Look, the comical side, fine, you know, this man was a complete moron. But why now? Why does he have to come out now with the biggest event in history happening, which is the next president of the United States? You know, the world's completely transforming, because you have to look at the timeline for a little bit, because the world's completely transforming into a digital space. We have 98% of centralized banks and CBDCs. We have a massive election coming up that can essentially put the world on a complete different path, on depending on who's the next president of the United States, whether they go to CBDCs or get delayed on CBDCs. We have geopolitical tensions happening right now with Russia and Ukraine and North Korea now. We have China and Taiwan going at it with each other. We have Iran and Israel going at it with each other. We have so many issues happening right now in this world, and a lot of it, you know, is coming onto the crypto space. The world's transforming into a digital space, and then we've had 2 people claiming, one of them not claiming, but the other one claiming he's the founder of Bitcoin. The answer just remains, why now? Why come out now with all of these situations happening, with the world completely transforming into digital space? Why would you come out now and do this? 1, embarrass yourself in front of a live audience, and 2, disrupt the market space. It's very odd, very, very odd, because right now the voting power, believe it or not, is inside the crypto space. The data came out that essentially 40% of Americans hold crypto assets. 40% of Americans hold crypto assets. 70% are essentially thinking of buying more or going into it. So, and they also said 70% said that they are going to be choosing a crypto candidate inside of the United States. So there's a lot of things happening inside the crypto space, and the world transforming into a digital space. And we have two counts of somebody, one pretending and the other one being forced to be named a Satoshi Nakamoto person. So just one main question: why now? Why disrupt the market space now? So, moving off that essentially embarrassing interview, the Stefan Muller person inside the United Kingdom, to the SEC. The SEC cost crypto firms $426 million. Now, in my point of view, they cost crypto firms a hell of a lot more and embarrassed themselves in the progress. But the Blockchain Association is putting the SEC under fire right now inside the United States, claiming that the SEC has cost the crypto space $426 million. Well, not just the SEC, Gary Gensler specifically. Before we go through that news topic, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see what's going on in here. And by the way, this is a live, which means if you do have any questions, don't be shy. Go through inside the comment section. I'm reading everyone's comments one by one, giving a short, sweet, simple answer to everyone. I read out your name, and then they essentially give you an answer on the spot. Hi, Marcus. So why markets are dropping? Ladis, good to see you as well. How you doing? The markets are dropped. They're not dropped. This isn't a drastic drop in any sort of a way. What do you do? What do I do? I own a blockchain startup company by the name of CoinMove.one. I have a background in finance. I have a background in essentially cybersecurity. I have a background in business as well, and background in law. But this is the CMF Live, and I'm the host of it. I talk about the recent news that's happening around the world in terms of digital currency, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, and I inform people of how the world is transforming into a digital space every single night on this live. If you're wondering what I do, let's go, Ian. Let's go, Ray. How you doing? Sorry, Miles, available to block now. Let's go, Shelly. Coinbase stock was down $32 today. Yes. The reason why Coinbase stock was down is because there are recent reports that came out yesterday. Wall Street was just reacting when the market opened because the Coinbase reports came out a bit late. And now Wall Street reacted when the markets reopened today, essentially. Happy Pisces, good to see you. So how you doing? How you been? Remember, Halloween is the only way we can... Okay, I mean, there's just a lot of weird people in Halloween times. Hey, PT, good to see you. So how you doing? I'm doing great. Miles, if I invented Bitcoin, I wouldn't want anyone to know, which is a fair point. No, I am Spartus. No, I am. He was paid to come out, and now, who has seen the movie Aladdin? Keep holding onto that XRP. Tell me how it works for you, lol. Keep holding onto that XRP. Tell me how it's working for you. It's working great for me. Very good. He just wanted 5 minutes of celebrity time, pretty much, yeah. I don't share this enthusiasm in essentially knowing who BTC's founder is. I really couldn't care less. Loads of the world's problems out there. Does anyone really care, or is it just me that doesn't care? Joe, fair point. You don't care who the founder of Bitcoin is. Just one issue. You have to care. Joe, if you want to be inside the crypto space, you have to care who the founder of Bitcoin is, if it ever is confirmed that it is this person or if it's this government entity. Why? Because it will disrupt the market space. You're in a crypto market space, which means any news can be very disruptive in the market space you're in. So if the founder of Bitcoin is revealed to be a person or an entity, it will disrupt the entire crypto space. So you have to understand. So you have to basically know, who the founder of Bitcoin is whenever they do talk about it, because if there is some actual damning evidence, then you have to know, because that's going to disrupt the market space. And then you're going to wonder to yourself, why is the market so volatile? Because they reveal who the founder is. So it's very important for you to care about who the founder is of the market space you're in right now. So it's very vital for you to essentially not just shrug off that essentially information in any sort of a way. I want Shiba Inu just to go to a penny. Fair enough. Hey, Miles and CMF, Stormy, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hello. I've already blocked them. Let's go. Shelly, thank you so much for doing that. Hey, Stormy, good to see you. How you doing? Okay, I stand corrected. Yeah. Now, Cost, essentially the SEC is what we talk about now. The Blockchain Association has put the SEC on fire because they're damaging the crypto space, and the numbers talk for themselves. The Blockchain Association inside the United States, a cryptocurrency blockchain advocacy group, reported that the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, and essentially the cost of companies at least has cost many companies inside the blockchain sector $426 million in litigations involving digital assets since Gary Gensler took his chair as the chairman of the SEC. The update to its essentially regulation by enforcement page, the Blockchain Association, the BA, reported that the SEC had brought 104 cases against the crypto industry from 2021 to 2023. According to the association, self-reported data by BA member companies, a small essentially slice of the industry suggested that crypto firms had spent $426 million on defensive litigations against the regulators. The industry and the American voters is ready for a change and a fair shot, said the essentially Blockchain Association. The time of the lawfare against our industry must end. That begins with a change of leadership with the SEC. Many industry advocates and US lawmakers have criticized the SEC's chair for regulations by enforcements, an approach to crypto since assuming leadership in 2021. Under Gary Gensler, the commission has filed enforcement actions against Binance, Ripple, Coinbase, and several other essential crypto firms. The Blockchain Association claimed on X that the addition to the money, Gary Gensler's anti-innovation crypto crusade resulted in essentially a massive loss of jobs, innovation, and US tech investments. The organization and its CEO, Christian Smith, called on crypto users to support a change in leadership at the SEC. The ex-post did not especially mention which political candidate the organization or Smith would support in the 2024 election for the SEC's change of leadership, which is interesting. Look, a lot of crypto firms are now essentially singing a different tune. A very different tune. You see, at the beginning of this elections, crypto firms were saying Trump is the one for bringing change inside the crypto space, which he is. Trump is definitely the 1 billion% candidate that can bring change inside the crypto space. That's guaranteed. He's very pro-crypto. We know that from the start. The guy owns 3 NFT projects, wants to bring Bitcoin inside the United States, wants to mine Bitcoin, bring regulations, fire Gary Gensler. You couldn't be more essentially pro-crypto than that. So we know that for a fact. And crypto firms were all saying, essentially, Trump is the better option, is what all the crypto firms were saying. Now, oddly enough, crypto firms are singing a different tune. They're all saying, we don't care who it is as long as it's pro-crypto. So the question is, why they're singing a different tune? And it was a topic that we were discussing on the Telegram group of this live as well today. Republican Donald Trump claimed that he would fire Gary Gensler by essentially day one if elected, while essentially reports suggested Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris was considering possible replacement for the SEC chair. Kamala Harris has not mentioned anything about crypto or replacing Gary Gensler, but the news goes on and on and on how she's pro-crypto and is going to fire Gary Gensler, which is a load of BS. If she is going to do that, then mention it, maybe. It's not that difficult. Go on the news and say, I'm firing Gary Gensler. I'm, essentially bringing crypto regulations. It's not that difficult. I know Kamala Harris can't put 2 sentences together, but maybe she can write it down on a piece of paper and read it like a script. All of her news live, essentially debates are all scripted anyways. Just write it on a piece of paper, and just say it in public on the news. I'm firing Gary Gensler, bringing crypto regulations. Not that difficult. But the news keeps on claiming she is pro-crypto. We haven't seen it yet. We know Trump is. He said he's firing Gary Gensler. That's the most pro-ist crypto you can become when you mention, I'm firing Gary Gensler. Crypto is on the upgrabs of the election issues with the power to sway voters. No party currently owns the issue, but voters say that they are more likely to support and back candidates who support innovations and digital assets, said the essential Blockchain Association. Crypto voters make up 18% of the electoral voters and are even more winnable on this issue. Early voting is still underway in many US states, with election days on November 5th as one of October. Many polls show that Vice President Harris favored to win the popular votes. But the Electoral College race was effectively a toss-up between Democratic candidates and Trump. Now, everybody was talking about yesterday how ABC revealed by mistake who is the chosen candidate, and it showed Kamala Harris as the chosen candidate, which means you're all pretty much doomed. But look, there's something happening. There's something brewing. I said this a very long time ago, and I'll still stand by it. I've always said Trump is the best candidate by a mile. Nobody compares to Trump. He's the best candidate to run a country, a business, or anything in that matter. But I've always said, I feel like, just, somewhere down bottom, I feel like it could go two ways. It's either because Trump is going up against extremely manipulated and corrupt people, which are politicians, and entities, which is, believe it or not, the Bank of International Settlements, the World Economic Forum, the International Monetary Fund, because they're very pro-CBDC. So Trump is going up against manipulated and corrupted politicians and entities. So I think it goes two ways. One, and by the way, just one, Kamala Harris doesn't win. Trump wins. But they give him essentially an economy that will collapse on purpose. I'll take it back. Look, one way it could possibly go is that Kamala Harris wins. Okay, just hear me out. One way it could possibly go is that Kamala Harris wins because, hear me out, because she is pro-CBDC, believe it or not. Okay? Here's the thing. They already have a plan. Not Kamala Harris. Okay, I'm not talking about Kamala Harris now. They already have a plan. Okay, the World Economic Forum, the Bank of International Settlements, the International Monetary Fund, and many entities, they already have a plan. And the plan is for the world to go into control, for the world to go into CBDCs. 98% of centralized banks, 98% of centralized banks are in CBDCs. We are talking about a massive wealth transfer, and we are also talking about control. It's CBDC world. So they don't want the president of the United States to be a leader. They want the president of the United States to be a listener. Because they already have a plan, a very coordinated plan, which they just want somebody to read it from a script, which is Kamala Harris. So if she wins, it's very rigged, and essentially it's because they have a plan. Now, if Trump wins, they're going to collapse the economy on Trump's hands, which makes Trump go from the hero to the villain very quickly. They're very corrupted people. You've got to understand what's at stake here right now. The world is transforming into a digital space. Crypto is playing, or blockchain in general, is playing a much, much more bigger role than you can possibly imagine. Inside the crypto space, people think crypto plays the meme coin role. Inside the essentially corporate space, the financial space, crypto is playing a huge role. Blockchain in general is playing a huge role. But what part of blockchain is what is important? CBDC side. CBDCs are playing a massive role right now. In CBDCs for wholesale CBDCs, retail CBDCs, tokenization of CBDCs is playing a massive role right now. And you can't have, they can't have somebody in charge of the United States who is against CBDCs. And Trump is against CBDCs. The Bank of International Settlements is pro-CBDCs. 63 centralized banks are under them. The World Economic Forum is pro-CBDCs and pro-carbon footprints and pro-digital IDs. Trump is against all of that. The International Monetary Fund is pro-CBDCs. Trump is against that as well. So he's going up against their plans, which can end very bad for him. So here's the thing. And there's another thing at play as well, which is this election is too big to rig as well. So some people are saying this election is too big to rig, which is a very valid point, extremely valid point. It's too big to rig. So if they rig it, it could cause a massive disruption inside the United States. It could cause a lot of violent protesting if they rig it. Now, if they don't rig it, what they can do instead is let Trump win and give him an extremely broken down economy, which will collapse on itself, and then blame Trump for the collapsed economy, which will make Trump go from the hero that everybody loves him as to the villain very quickly. And people will forget that those bastards gave Trump a broken economy. on purpose. So there's a lot of things at play here right now. There's a lot of things at stake right now. Now, this would also explain why a lot of essentially blockchain companies are now becoming neutral parties. Because Coinbase was a pro, essentially, in the early days, Coinbase was in favor of Trump. They were in favor of Trump because he's pro-crypto. Now, Coinbase yesterday was singing a different tune. Yesterday, Coinbase was talking about how they don't care who wins, as long as we have some regulations and policies. But before, they were pro-Trump. Ripple made investments to Trump. But then they made more investments to Kamala Harris very recently as well. Now, obviously, that's because they're doing it for Congress purposes as well. But they're not the only companies. There's a lot of crypto blockchain companies right now, a lot of blockchain companies that are all becoming neutral parties. They all went from Trump is the best candidate to neutral party. There's something happening behind the scenes. There's something happening behind the scenes. There's a lot of things at play right now. And blockchain is playing a much more bigger role, a huge role right now. Because we're talking about money. What makes this world spin? Money. Money is the thing that makes this world spin. Money, power, greed, and now control, CBDCs. So there's a lot of things at play right now. Which explains this, essentially. Chris Lawson, co-founder of Ripple, believes important regulatory changes are imminent inside the cryptocurrency market space. In a recent interview with CNBC, he stated that Senator Elizabeth Warren misguided war on crypto and has shifted leadership in the sector to Singapore and other countries. He also pointed out that these policies have fallen short on protecting the American consumers from threats like FTX. Chris Lawson expressed on the interview that the current regulations are preventing the US from being a leading nation inside the crypto space. He argued that Warren's policies hinder innovation and growth potential in the industry. This situation, according to him, makes it challenging for the Americans to maintain leadership in cryptocurrencies and digital assets. However, Chris Lawson believes a turning point in crypto regulations is approaching. He noted that the support for crypto, regardless of which party wins the presidential election, regardless of which party wins the presidential election. Do you see how that essentially plays out? Because anybody with common sense, genuinely, anybody with common sense knows that Trump is pro-crypto. The man said he will fire Gary Gensler in 24 hours. That is pro-crypto. Gary Gensler is the one that's been stifling innovation inside the crypto space. So if you put Kamala Harris and Donald Trump in front of anybody, they can tell you he's pro-crypto and she's silent. So why are crypto companies playing the neutral role? Are they playing it for political purposes? Because they want to keep both parties happy? Or are they playing it because they know one party has an advantage, even though they're very silent? Or because one party is going to be playing the role of reading from a script? Chris Lawson highlighted that Vice President Kamala Harris received a significant donation of around $12 million, essentially $12 million in XRP, which we've talked about before, for her presidential campaign. The chairperson of Ripple expressed excitement about Harris' economic message, emphasizing her adoption of policies that support innovation and ensure American companies can lead globally. There is a very, very weird person. There we go. There's a message supporting innovation and allowing American giants to dominate the worldwide industries. I'm quite excited about this. Chris Lawson essentially is very excited about Kamala Harris's crypto movements. Have you seen any crypto movements from Kamala Harris? Nobody has. Not a single person on this planet has seen any announcements or movements from Kamala Harris about crypto. But apparently she's very pro. And this is coming from quite a lot of essentially blockchain associations. Now, Lawson essentially voiced his confidence that Harris administration would adapt a different approach to cryptocurrencies and digital assets compared to Biden administration failed policies. Referring to the Bay Area's history as an innovation hub, he noted that Harris's expertise in the field What expertise? The Ripple executive believes that cryptocurrencies policies will shift positively and that America will benefit from this change. This information is expected to protect American consumers while fostering innovation within the sector. Chris Lawson's insights enhance optimism regarding anticipated regulatory changes in the cryptocurrency market. The potential for American companies to regain strong positions for innovations to be supported could create a crucial opportunity for the industry players. A lot of things are not adding up. Look, here's the thing. As I said, two factors are at play right now. Genuinely two factors. In my opinion, there are two outcomes in play. Outcome number one, they rig it and she wins. Kamala Harris wins. But then there's the issue of, because Kamala Harris is pro CBDCs. She's a listener, not a leader. And that's what they need. They need a listener to make the world go into CBDCs. America has to go into CBDCs because it has to. Every market depends on the American market. And if America isn't going CBDCs and the rest of the world is, it doesn't add up. So America has to go into CBDCs. So that is why she might win, because they're going to rig it. But then there's the other argument where this is too big to rig, which will cause massive protest and violent protesting. Outcome number two, they let Trump win because he actually has the votes. They let Trump win because he actually has the votes. But they collapse the economy on his head. There's also the other argument as well, which is Wall Street. Wall Street has priced in multiple interviews that Wall Street has done. Wall Street went, the billionaire hedge fund investor that went on Wall Street, that went on Bloomberg, said on Bloomberg, and everybody listens to Bloomberg like it's gospel if you're on the financial side. He said that Wall Street has priced in Trump winning. Wall Street has priced in Trump winning. And that is why we're getting staggering numbers coming in from Bitcoin ETFs. That is why we're seeing Bitcoin climb up the ranks as well. Yes, there is some retail push to Bitcoin as well, but there's a lot more institutional push behind Bitcoin through the ETFs. So they're telling everybody it's going to win. They're telling everybody the numbers are going to go higher. They're telling everybody Trump wins, the numbers go even higher. Something's not adding up. Wall Street, just to put in perspective, if you didn't know, Wall Street doesn't play nice. Wall Street doesn't tell the retail section that we're all going to make money together, happy days. That's what's also odd as well. They're playing a lot of mind games right now. Wall Street isn't the type of, they're not the type of people to tell the retail section, we're all going to make money together and the market's going to go up together. That's what's not adding up as well. Are they playing nice for once in their lives, telling everybody we've priced in, Trump's winning, market's going to go higher? That's what's odd as well. This is why I said, we're going up against incredibly manipulated, twisted, corrupted mindsets. These are very, the people that we're trying to outsmart, essentially. So a lot of things aren't adding up. But there's only one way to find out of how it's all going to play out. And we're not that far off from the 5th. Now, moving off, essentially, that complete confusing breakdown of what should be playing out, the three outcomes that I laid out, which is 1, she wins because she's pro CBDC, or 2, they let him win, but they collapse the economy on top of his head. And 3, why is Wall Street playing nice? There's one thing to consider as well. And we have a lot of distractions happening as well right now. We have a lot of distractions happening in the world, a lot of geopolitical tensions happening. There's too much happening, to be fairly honest. There's too much happening right before the elections, right before the biggest elections in the entire world, with Ukraine, Russia, and North Korea, China, Taiwan, Israel, and pretty much the entire Middle East. So there's a lot of distractions happening at the same time as well. And then we're getting 2 news sources claiming they're Bitcoin founders. There's too much happening at this one particular date. So it's brewing for something big. And then all of a sudden, this is the best part as well. As we're coming up to the elections, with the geopolitical tensions, with the corruption and manipulation and so on, we have the Bank of International Settlements dropping mBridge. mBridge was for the BRICS countries, even though the Bank of International Settlements claims it's not, but it was. But they're at the same time claiming we're not dropping it fully, we're still a part of it, but we're sidestepping it because we don't want to work with sanctioned countries. The Bank of International Settlements has stated they're not going to be working with sanctioned countries. The Bank of International Settlements has been developing mBridge with sanctioned countries. And now they're saying we're not going to be essentially on the program, we're going to sidestep it because they're sanctioned countries. You weren't aware they were sanctioned countries when you started building mBridge with them? So a lot of things aren't adding up. And why do they have to do it now? There's too much happening. This election, there's a lot of things circling this election right now. Now, moving off essentially that to Florida is what we talk about next, because of the chief economic officer from Florida. And then we're going to talk about, on tonight's live, regarding Iran and Israel. That is also happening now again, according to multiple news sources. But before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said, this is a live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. We're more than happy to answer any questions you may have. Let's go inside the comment section first before we go through the next news. And what's everyone's thoughts on this? What's everyone's thoughts? Do you think they're going to rig it? Do you think they're going to rig the elections? Do you think they're going to let Trump win but collapse the economy on top of his head? Do you think Wall Street is playing nice by telling everybody we've priced in, he's won, prices are going to go through the roof, everybody buy? What's everyone's thoughts on this? And with the geopolitical tensions going off, the Bank of International Settlement is sidestepping a project that was built for the BRICS nations that are obviously sanctioned countries. But why now? And they're not fully out, to be fairly honest. So we're going to go through that on tonight's live as well, but they're not fully out. Because the only one that SEC missed was FTX. They missed that one on purpose, to be fairly honest, because they've been told to keep out of it, Miles. I'm outwardly optimistic but silently concerned about what could transpire into the coming days. I have a bad feeling about it all. I hope I'm wrong. The same. I'll be very honest. There's a lot of things happening. The money masters have spoken, which is why they are boarding up all the shops, post offices in Washington, D.C. Interesting. So they're bordering up all the shops and post offices in Washington, D.C. because they're going to make her win, which will make people protest violently, maybe. Because she's pro-CBDC. CBDCs are playing a bigger role than you think. We're talking about wholesale CBDCs, retail CBDCs, tokenization of CBDCs. We're talking about 98% of centralized banks and CBDCs. And then you have one man against all of these CBDCs. Even though he's on the right path, but he's against their path. Well, Miles, this is the second time I've heard you swear live on air in 18 months. Let's go. Do you think this was a plan proposing Biden so no other candidate will run, even if they know him was not all there, and then promote Harris, even she was not chosen by the people? Yeah, it was all a plan, definitely. 100%. Have you seen the 100-year price prediction model in XRP's 2023 book? It'll excite you. I haven't. Web3. If you want to send it to me, I'll take a look at it. If Trump doesn't win, there will be riots. Well, yeah. What is happening today with all of those just entering our live show today? I have no idea. Apologies, the guy is not coming up on my feed. Strange. Sometimes that happens. No problem. I couldn't see him either. Too many big players priced in Trump winning, and that's exactly why I think the original Hawk Tour is winning. Shelly, you're doing three things at once: listening to Miles, taking notes on the live, and three creeps away. As well done, go. Facts. Thank you so much, Shelly. My man Miles, let's go. Parker, how you doing? How you been? Trump will win. Let's go, Ian. Miles, there will be an argument by November 4th between the SEC and Ripple. Sorry, an agreement. No. I think the key is no. I think the key is the Republicans who are public and not public, and their support or lack of support for Trump is the critical indicator. Interesting. They will rig it. They will probably put Kamala in, is what Ghostman is saying. Honestly, at this point, 50-50. Trump wins regardless with the votes. They can rig it last time. Literally could go either way, though. It could do, yes. But you know what's going to be happening, whatever way it goes? CBDCs. It's going to be happening. Because they'll collapse the economy on Trump's head on purpose. Because these people are very corrupted and manipulated people. It's sad to think how many lives will be lost around the world in wars if Trump doesn't win. That's also true as well. Now, moving off, essentially, that to Florida. So yesterday I reviewed the Florida Chief Economic Officer revealing that essentially pension funds and Bitcoin pension funds and ETF pension funds for cryptocurrencies should be happening in Florida. We have a little bit more update on that matter and how much money so far Florida has spent on crypto assets. Florida, essentially, Chief Economic Officer Jimmy is advocating for the state's retirement fund to include cryptocurrency investments. During an interview, Jimmy argued that the long-term growth potential of cryptocurrencies makes them an attractive option for retirement diversification and future-proofing government assets. Jimmy said that Florida can't afford to ignore the opportunities it presents, adding that crypto is here to stay, which is facts. But you know what's interesting about what Jimmy said as well? We're going to go into it. So we need to take advantage of these opportunities, Jimmy said, noting that being open to digital assets aligns with the state's essential responsibility to maximize returns for its teachers, firefighters, and state employers, which is all fine. Jimmy recently sent a letter to the state board proposing the idea, drawing inspiration from similar developments in Wisconsin and Michigan, as well as recent calls for a US-led crypto reserve. He acknowledged the risk involved, especially given October's volatile crypto prices, but said having all the tools on his dashboard could position Florida for stronger returns. So he wants to put Florida in, and make it into a crypto city, for example, a crypto state. Jimmy highlighted that Florida's burgeoning crypto industry, pointing to Miami's rise as a crypto hub. He also echoed that Governor Ron DeSantis' opposition to central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. CBDCs are playing a massive role, as I said, a massive role in how the world is transforming, calling them essentially unethical to create decentralized nature. He argued that CBDCs could provide excessive government control over individuals' financial lives, saying that I don't want the federal government. This is what he said. This is what Jimmy said, the chief, essentially, economic officer of Florida. He said, I don't want the federal government to know when my son brought a bag of Doritos, because they can find out on CBDCs. Florida's resistance to CBDCs and favorable tax policies, including a zero-state income tax, have essentially attracted significant migration from high-stake states like New York and New Jersey. Jimmy observed that the new residents are flocking to Florida, driven by the state's economic policies and crypto-friendly environments. Jimmy envisions a diversified portfolio with a significant allocation to digital assets. He explained that Florida's state investment portfolio already includes $800 million. So far, Florida has invested $800 million in crypto-related assets. If you didn't know, now you know. And he expects the number to grow under federal administration that is particularly supportive of crypto. So even Jimmy, the financial economic officer of Florida, is talking about how CBDCs are going to control his life, and he doesn't want the government knowing if his son, for example, buys a bag of Doritos from the shops, which is all very, very true regarding CBDCs. They can control you, head to toe, which is just telling you even more how much of a big role CBDCs are going to be playing in this matter. A very big role. Retail CBDCs, wholesale CBDCs, tokenization of CBDCs, digital IDs is what this world is coming to. And if anybody stands in front of that, they will collapse anything on top of them. But I've also said, if any politicians are against CBDCs, politicians don't care about you. They've never did. Trump is not a politician, so he's different. When I'm talking about politicians, I'm talking about only politicians. Trump is a businessman, so we're going to exclude him from this conversation. Politicians don't care about you. They've never cared about you. Everybody knows this by now. If you don't, you must be born yesterday. But regarding politicians, any politician that comes out and says he's against CBDCs and says CBDCs are damaging to your privacy, claiming that they care about your privacy, it's all complete lies. The issue is, because they're politicians, their government's essentially people, which means their wages will be in CBDCs. Politicians don't make that much money, believe it or not. But how they do make money is from political donations, or in some cases, under-the-table deals. Now, if their wages and their entire wallet is in CBDCs, it's going to get very difficult for them to be hiding under-the-table donations. And yes, they can use crypto wallets, but at one point they will find out. So politicians are not doing this because they care about your privacy. When they say, we're against CBDCs because we care about your privacy, they're lying through their teeth. They care about their own privacy. Just want you to know that as well. If you didn't know, now you know. Now, moving off, essentially, the chief legal officer mentioning $800 million so far has been spent, though, on essentially cryptocurrencies to Iran and Israel. Now, I did say there is one thing that can bring this market down. There's multiple things that can bring this market down. The crypto market is very volatile right now. But one of them is geopolitical tensions. And according to multiple sources, Iran is essentially getting ready to retaliate against Israel. Now, Israel said if Iran retaliates, because Iran attacked Israel twice, Israel retaliated towards Iran once. Apparently, Iran is getting ready for attack number 3 on Israel, which is going to create... here's the thing. I said this yesterday as well. I said, this war isn't getting that serious yet. Between Iran and Israel, it's not getting that serious yet. But all it takes is for one missile to go the wrong way and hits something or someone that it's not supposed to. And then this will be a full-blown war. Because for now, it's, they throw some missiles, they throw some missiles. Or the other group throws missiles, they throw some missiles. Between Iran and Israel. But all it takes is for one person to hit the wrong target. And this will cause a massive full-blown war, which will affect the crypto markets and the stock market, in general, every market space. And apparently, Iran is allegedly going to launch a retaliation attack on Israel. And here is the expected dates. According to multiple reports, 2 Israeli sources as well, they claim that Iran is preparing a major retaliation attack on Israel, but not directly from Iran, from Iraq. In Iraqi territory within days and before the US presidential election. There is too much happening around this US election. Way too much happening around this US election. I'm telling you, the geopolitical tensions, the Bank of International Settlements, and the elections, and now Iran is getting ready to essentially attack Israel on the election date, for example, of the US election. Iran is getting ready to retaliate towards Israel on the election date. And then the Bank of International Settlements, moving away from mBridge because of sanctioned countries. The geopolitical tensions between Russia and North Korea, and China and Taiwan, and the 2 founders of random bitcoins coming up. 2 Israeli sources claim that Iran is preparing a major retaliation attack on Israel from Iraqi territories within days and before the US presidential elections. There has been some pressure on Bitcoin prices during previous Iran versus Israel tensions, but it is known that what the situation will be this time around. The attack is expected to use drones and ballistic missiles and make use of pro-Iranian militias in Iraq to avoid direct conflict on Iranian soil. The reported plans reflect escalating tensions in the regions as Israel and Iran engage in intense exchange of attacks. Iran could seek to limit retaliation against its own strategic assets by using Iraq as a territory instead, making it harder for Israel to target Iranian territories in response. According to Israeli sources, the attack would involve a significant number of drones and ballistic missiles launched from Iraq. The US officials acknowledged the intelligence, but it remained unclear whether Iran had made any sort of final decisions on when to strike. But Israel thinks it's happening in days. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, essentially commander, the Soleimani person, thank God he's dead, warned that Israel was making a mistake with its latest attack, essentially on Iran, hinting at an imminent response. Our response will be different from the scenario Israel might expect. A senior Iranian source also told CNN that Tehran was planning a firm and painful response, suggesting it could come from before the US elections. So there are people from Iran's side letting CNN know they're going to be doing some attacks. And then there's Israeli sources claiming that it's going to be happening in a few days as well, right up until the US election times. If that happens, markets will become volatile. Keep that in mind. Right now, the markets are getting, it's you know what, it's so crazily coordinated, it's unreal. The markets are essentially, Wall Street saying we priced in, Trump is going to win, market's going to go skyrocketing up, is what's, on this side of the news. On the other side of the news, geopolitical tensions. So they're pricing in, market's going to go shooting sales. And then if that happens, US presidential essentially election announced, geopolitical tensions rise, these two countries start throwing missiles to each other. Instead of the market going up, as how Wall Street said, the market is going to go up, the market is going to go. And just to put in context, there is a lot of private and public companies in Wall Street that are essentially weaponry companies for all these high tension countries in Wall Street that develop these weaponaries that they sell to everybody. And they're in Wall Street. And Wall Street is telling everybody, US elections, up. Trump, win, up. And on the other side, we have sources coming in saying imminent retaliation on the way, right up until the election dates. So one side, Wall Street is saying up. Other side, if that happens, is going down. And Wall Street has public and private companies that make these types of weaponaries, that are war companies, in other words. There's too much. There's this one particular date of the US election, there's too much happening around it. And this is all about money, what's going on right now. It's all about profits. If that happens, then we know what's going to be happening to the market space. Now, and it's not just Israel that's stating this. Apparently, Iranians are also leaking this information to CNN. And the Israeli sources are claiming the same thing. The Iranian sources are claiming the same thing. The Israeli sources are claiming the same thing. So are they going to be doing attack on each other? There's only one way to find out. Let's see what happens as we get close to the US elections date. Let's go inside the comment section before we go through the next news. And what's everybody's perspective on this matter? Do you think this retaliation is going to happen? And does it look like it's coordinated to happen? What's everybody's opinions? Do you think this retaliation is going to happen? Do you think that this is going to be happening right up until the US elections date? Does it seem a bit coordinated? Because Wall Street claiming it's all good to go, priced in, Trump's winning, everybody buy, we're going to the moon. And on the other side, you have retaliation situations happening on the market space, right up until the US elections. And Wall Street is playing nice, telling everybody it's all good. Wall Street never plays nice. And they have private and public companies that are, essentially weaponry companies who are benefiting from these wars on both sides. And they're telling everybody it's all good to go. What's everybody's thoughts on this matter? Do you think it seems coordinated that this is about to be happening? Do you think it's going to happen? Or both sources just lying? Just to create high tensions for no apparent reason? Just to cause some volatility inside the market space? Maybe they're lying, you never know. Or does it seem coordinated? They're lying maybe to disrupt the market space. If it does happen, it's definitely going to disrupt the market space. Let's go to that comment section. Let's see what's going on here. I don't think that all the Democrats or Republicans and independents are against Trump or corrupt. Disagreeing is not disagreeable. Just because something doesn't happen the way we want doesn't mean the other side isn't corrupt or wrong. If that is the case, as an African American, I have a case here in the US. Politicians care only about themselves and power. Some do not care about their families. I agree, Scott, regarding what you said. Politicians care only about themselves and power. Facts. Complete facts. I agree. And some do not care about their families either. I agree with that one too. If politicians cared about families, genuinely, if politicians cared about... And there's another situation happening as well, where they're disrupting the whole family values. They're putting everyone in multiple categories. They're trying to divide everyone as well. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of situations brewing right now. One of them is also dividing people up in different categories. They're trying to divide you up based on your skin color. The governments, the politicians, they're trying to divide you based on your skin color, trying to divide you based on essentially your religion, trying to divide you based on your gender, which is the stupidest thing ever. They're trying to essentially, they're trying to break up a nuclear family, is what I said on a Telegram group today as well. They're trying to break up a nuclear family, which is easier to control people. Because if you take, the concept of a family away, and you take the concept of God away, then you have soulless people who are just easier to manipulate and control. And if you think about it, we're going into a new world with control. We're going into a world where it's CBDCs, where it's social credit systems and carbon footprints, and it's all about control. So we're going into a world that's fully about control. And right before we go into this world of control, they're trying to break everybody up into categories. They're trying to take away the whole family values. They're trying to take God out of the equation. So then you're just left with people with no care for God, no love, no support, and it's just everybody's soulless, and then everybody's just, easier to manipulate and corrupt and control, most importantly. And they're doing this right before we go into a CBDC world. It all seems extremely coordinated. I think you taught me is consider all possible outcomes. Good way to do it. I did taught you that, yes. Honestly, lobbyists pay off and pass their bills in the Senate. Miles, that's true as well. Miles, can the Iranian folks overthrow their government for a positive change? Great question. I wish they could. The Iranian, so Scott has asked the question of, Miles, can the Iranian folks overthrow their government for a positive change? And if anybody's wondering, just before I answer this question, if you're watching this and you're thinking, how am I qualified to talk about Iran? I'm Persian, I'm Iranian. And for anybody's information out there, I don't support the Iranian government. I support the king of Iran. Now, Scott's question is, Miles, can the Iranian folks overthrow the government for a positive change? They've tried, is what I can say. The Iranian people have tried to overthrow the government. There's a lot of people in Iran who are in favor of Israel. They want Israel to come into Iran and take away this government in Iran and replace the government of Iran with the king of Iran, with the Shah of Iran, Reza Pahlavi II, which is a good thing. Because the Iranian government are very manipulated and corrupted people. And they've destroyed I can't go into detail of what they've done to people. But what you think, 10 times worse or 1,000 times worse. But the Iranian people have tried multiple times to overthrow the Iranian government in these past years. And a lot of people just, died in these protests. And the protests just disappeared because there's too much control on the Iranian people. The majority of the Iranian people don't want the Iranian government. But the Iranian government is clinging onto Iran and not letting go. That's the issue. The Iranian government is genuinely clinging onto Iran and not letting go. But no, they can't do it by themselves. That's the issue. The Iranian people want Israel to come into Iran and take this government away from them. They can't do it by themselves. They tried 6 times trying to overthrow the Iranian government, and every single time it failed. Lots of spooky and high tensions for sure. Lots of spooky and high tensions for sure, is what Ray said. All of these wars keep the dollar strong, which is all facts. Yes, all of these wars that are happening keep the dollar strong. Not sure, but everything is coordinated. We don't know what their plans are, but we have a clue of what their plans are. Just laid out. We have some essential understanding of what they're doing. Miles, I don't trust anyone anymore. I don't trust anyone anymore. Fair point. Yes, the retaliation could happen, and yes, it is definitely coordinated to impact the elections. I think there are proxy countries with vested interest. Facts. This election is not only being essentially manipulated from within the United States. There are country leaders who are trying to manipulate the US elections. And just to tell you how petty these countries are, the Iranian government hacked, a lot of people don't know this, but the Iranian government hacked ChatGPT. ChatGPT was compromised by Iranian hackers, so ChatGPT would give out misinformation about Donald Trump. So if somebody said to ChatGPT, tell me some positives about Donald Trump, ChatGPT will feed misinformation about Donald Trump to anybody that asks positive things about it, because the Iranian hackers, the Iranian government hackers, were hacking ChatGPT. This is the level of pettiness some of these countries are going to manipulate the results of the US elections. So it's not just within the United States with the corruption and manipulation of who's the next president. Outside of the United States, there's a lot of manipulation and corruption happening as well of who's the next president of the United States. So yeah, hello Miles, Andrew, good to see you. How you doing? It's coordinated, but they want to create high tensions, division, etc. It's all in a book, The Protocols of Elders of Zion. What I don't understand, that Russia versus Ukraine have been in war for the past 2 years, but that don't matter. But Israel versus Iran matters a lot to the markets. Why is that, Miles? So why does the Iran versus Israel war matter more than the Ukraine war versus Russia? Well, they both matter, to be fair honest. So Ukraine has a lot of gas. An immense amount of gas is what Ukraine has. So the Ukraine war matters as well, quite a lot actually, believe it or not. But the Iranian war matters more. And I'll tell you why. Because one, there's the resources. So Iran has an immense amount of gas and oil and a lot of other resources. But there's something bigger than that, which is the Middle East is very disrupted. So the Middle East is very disrupted, and the only countries in the Middle East that are fixed is the United Arab Emirates is fixed, Kuwait fixed, Qatar fixed, Saudi Arabia fixed. The other countries in the Middle East, they're very disruptive in the eyes of governments and so on, which needs to be fixed. Because if the plan, for example, if the plan is to go towards a one type of world where everybody's under control and everybody's and carbon footprints and digital IDs, there can't be disruptions like that. And also, just to put in perspective, Iran was a country in the past also that controlled the Middle East. So Iran has always been the country that controls the Middle East, the entire Middle East pretty much. They put everybody on watch if they wanted to. So even when Iran had a king, so even when Iran had a Shah, everybody feared the Shah in the Middle East, even outside of the Middle East. Hence why they overthrew them, which was the worst thing ever. They should have left the Shah of Iran there. But Iran has always been the one that controls the Middle East. Even when it had a Shah, or even now when it's the moronic regime of the Iranian government, they've always had the control of the Middle East. So if you want to get control of the Middle East, it's Iran. Iran is the one controlling the Middle East. You overthrow Iran, you get control of the Middle East. It's basically what it is. And even in the past, Iran was like a neutral country, for example. When there was wars happening, between these Middle Eastern countries, the Iranian king would fly over to any of these countries and stop the wars from happening, and would say, what is what you would need to end this war? What is what you would need to end this war? Iran was playing the role that the United States used to play, and still can play, where the United States would fly over to any country. For example, when Trump flied over to North Korea and shake the hand of Kim Jong-un, the man that said that's going to nuke the entire world, and Trump flied over to North Korea and put him in his place. Iran played that role for the Middle East when it had a Shah, when it had a king, and still plays that role up to a certain extent now. So you want to take control of the Middle East, you got to remove the Iranian government. So that's why it's a bigger war and why it matters a lot more. And Iran also gave back. So there was a time period where, actually, I'm not going to get into that one, but you get the picture. Why it matters more is because they control the Middle East. Iran is controlling essentially Lebanon. They're controlling Syria. They're controlling Iraq. They're controlling, the majority of the Middle East is under their control. Good night, Miles and Crypto Family. William, see sometimes usual. Out of chaos must come order, Miles. Out of chaos must come order, Miles. Yeah. Right down, there's a weak person. Is it because Americans are supplying weapons to Israel, or is it that Americans are really behind killing them? I have no idea about that part. Non-devious domain, non-devious Scott, you're just typing in random letters. Are there ties between the Iranian government and the Saudis? Most likely, yes. The reason why Israel war is more important for the market is because 50% of maybe more of the money involved in the market is coming from Israel. So they might need to sell to share the attack to defend. Yeah. Iran or Iraq war. Iran and Iraq war is 10 years of fighting. Yeah. And Iran is controlling Iraq for a very long time, which isn't good, by the way, at all. Just a bit of perspective. I'm not happy about Iran controlling the Middle East in any sort of a way. I feel like every country should be in control of their own country, not let somebody else control them in any sort of a way. Just to point out perspective as well. I don't feel like anybody should control anybody else's country, and every country should control their own beings, not let somebody else in. So I was just sharing you what is essentially what you should know regarding why this war is very vital. The Middle East has a lot of resources. The Middle East has gas, it has oil. And if you want to take control of the Middle East, there's one country in motion. We're talking about money. We're talking about power, we're talking about greed, a lot of things in play. And the Middle East has all the resources. It has gold resources, silver resources, aluminium resources, food supplies in terms of salt and so on, water resources, oil resources, gas resources. It has all the resources in the Middle East. And you want to take control of it, you got to get rid of the Iranian government. Now, But the Iranian government has to go, to be fairly honest. The Iranian government has to go. And they need to be replaced by the king of Iran. Now, moving away from all of that. Why is the Middle East so F on time? Serious question. The world is, to be fairly honest. He's typing Latin, I think, Miles. I think so. I'm not sure. Now, moving off all of that. Going back to Donald Trump and elections and so on. Donald Trump is celebrating Satoshi's white paper anniversary right now. On Bitcoin's 16th birthday, former US President Donald Trump reaffirmed his promise to end the government's crackdown on cryptocurrencies. Trump's mission, essentially, Trump celebrating the Bitcoin white paper is absolutely amazing to see. Something that Kamala Harris is not doing, even though she's apparently pro-crypto. Donald Trump celebrating Satoshi's white paper anniversary. Today, essentially, the former US presidential Donald Trump reaffirmed his promise to end the government's crackdown on cryptocurrencies. Trump's message to Bitcoin supporters in the US on the anniversary of Bitcoin's white paper, written by the creator Satoshi Nakamoto, include a jab at the political rival Kamala Harris. The former president and current Republican candidate stated that he would end the war on crypto and support Bitcoin innovation in the US. He also reiterated his plan to pardon Silk Road founder Ross, who is serving a life sentence. Trump's Bitcoin rhetoric came days before the US general elections on November 5th. The Republican candidate has quoted Bitcoin and crypto supporters for months, pledging to end government Bitcoin sales and dismiss the SEC chairman, Gary Gensler. Trump wants to stop the US government from selling Bitcoins, which is amazing. On the other side, Kamala Harris expressed support for emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and commitment to protecting digital asset investors. What an absolute load of BS. If Kamala Harris wanted to protect digital asset investors, maybe don't, essentially say we're going to veto Congress for going up against Gary Gensler. The Biden administration decided to veto Congress once because Congress wanted to get rid of a specific type of law that Gary Gensler wanted to implement, which would damage cryptocurrencies for banks. And the Biden administration said we're going to veto it. Kamala Harris said we're going to veto in favor of Gary Gensler. But over here, she's saying, oh, she has a commitment to protecting digital asset investors. Sure you do. Meanwhile, Bitcoin adoptions and price have continued to trend upwards. Ahead of US elections, supporters suggest that Bitcoin would succeed regardless of the victor. 16 years after Satoshi's white paper release, Bitcoin remains one of the best performing assets of the past decade, with a 192% increase year to date compared to the S&P 500's 36% gain. Corporate holders like Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy rushed to buy more Bitcoin through capital raises, and spot Bitcoin ETF, essentially traded funds on Wall Street, made history as BlackRock's fund became the fastest growing ETF, and investors parked essentially a $72 billion in BTC investments as well. Now, that is all amazing, to be fairly honest, regarding what Trump is, his announcement of Satoshi Nakamoto's birthday and so on. Absolutely all amazing. Now, moving off that as well, to the Bank of International Settlements. So, the news that was going around yesterday, that there's rumors going around the Bank of International Settlements is thinking about dropping away from mBridge. Now, mBridge was a project that was developed with a particular group of countries. Those particular group of countries were sanctioned countries, some of them. And the Bank of International Settlements' reasoning to step away and not to step away, very odd, is because those countries are sanctioned countries. What's odd is the Bank of International Settlements spent years on time, money, and resources signing up these banks to create mBridge, signing up these centralized banks from these sanctioned, some not sanctioned countries, and spend time, money, resources building mBridge for, at the end, to say, we're not sure we can work with sanctioned countries. That's why we're thinking about leaving. What's odd is this is the Bank of International Settlements, just to put in perspective. This isn't some random company that doesn't understand what sanctions are. This is the Bank of International Settlements. These people would know what sanctioned is. So why say you're leaving mBridge because you can't work with sanctioned countries? Did you not know that you couldn't work with them at the beginning? This is the Bank of International Settlements, which means something isn't adding up. Something is genuinely not adding up. When the Bank of International Settlements reasoning for moving away from mBridge is because we don't want to work with sanctioned countries. Then why build with sanctioned countries? Why partner with, most importantly, why partner? Why do meetings with these sanctioned countries? Why bring them to the table? Why build with them? And then for at the end to go, we don't work with sanctioned countries. It doesn't add up. So, the Bank of International Settlements distance from Project mBridge and aimed BRICS sanction concerns. The Bank for International Settlements has essentially graduated out, apparently, but they still haven't in a way. And I'll explain. Of Project mBridge, the wholesale central bank digital currency CBDC bridge, its innovation hub has helped develop since 2021. Since 2021, they've been working with these sanctioned countries. They partnered with these sanctioned countries. They built with these sanctioned countries since 2021. And now stating we don't work with sanctioned countries. Nonetheless, the project is many years away from becoming operational. I don't believe it is in any sort of a way. And I'll explain again. But Bank of International Settlements General Manager Augustine said, Project mBridge, which uses technology developed by the Hyperledger Foundation, reached the status of minimum viable products and invited private sector participants in June. Banks in China and the United Arab Emirates have essentially headed the call to join. Besides the Bank of International Settlements founding members of the project, it includes the central monetary authorities of China, Hong Kong, Thailand, and the UAE. Saudi Arabia also joined as a full member in June, and the project has over 25 observing members. The Bank of International Settlements insists it backs sanctions. The reasoning for Augustine, the one that runs the Bank of International Settlements, one of the people that runs it, eagerness to distance himself from his organization from such as promising projects and downplay its significance was obvious at the fireside chat at the Santander International Banking Conference, where Augustine was speaking and he was asked. So here's the thing. So this is what the questions that were asked by the guy that runs the Bank of International Settlements, one of the people that runs the Bank of International Settlements. So he was asked at this banking conference, and this is where it all spewed from. The Bank of International Settlements moving away from mBridge. This is where it all spewed from. I have noted media speculation recently that one of your projects, Project mBridge, could provide the basis for BRICS initiatives, the sanctioned countries. Is that plausible? So that was the question that was asked towards one of the people that runs the Bank of International Settlements. That mBridge, a project that was built by the Bank of International Settlements, is going to be used by the BRICS nations and sanctioned countries. Is that correct? Which he responded with respect to political aspects, the noise out there, mBridge is not the BRICS bridge. I have to say that categorically, Augustine answered. Rather, mBridge was designed to meet the needs of central banks. But Augustine did not say, essentially, the culminating of sanctions with projects and mBridge was implausible instead, which is true. He didn't answer the question of, are you building with sanctioned countries? But then they're also saying we might be moving away because they're sanctioned countries. The Bank of International Settlements does not operate with any country, nor can its products be used by any countries that are subject to sanctions. And all the central bank members are in this mindset. I'm sorry, the Bank of International Settlements doesn't work with sanctions. Russia, who's a sanctioned country, is under the Bank of International Settlements. There are 63 centralized banks under the Bank of International Settlements. Some are sanctioned countries. And they built mBridge with sanctioned countries, which now they're saying the Bank of International Settlements does not operate with any countries, nor can its products be used by any countries that are subject to sanctions. And all central bank members have the exact same mindset. No, they don't. Why are you developing a project? Why are you signing central banks, bringing them to the table, developing with them, spending money, time, resources, hiring people, bringing companies on board, for them to make a speech of, we don't work with sanctioned countries? Then why sign them, knowing their sanctions day one? BRICS, the organization named for founding members Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, has been discussing de-dollarization for years. In that time, Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE have joined it, meaning that BRICS and the project mBridge share nearly half their members. BRICS has long essentially promoted efforts towards de-dollarization of the international financial systems. While it has essentially had little success so far in reaching that goal, the emphasis on alternative currencies options shown at the group summit in Kazan, Russia earlier this October has made international observers shudder, which is true, because at the essentially, at the event, the BRICS event that happened in Russia, they showed off the BRICS repayment system, which is mBridge, basically, or the Bank of International Settlement system. Reconsidering international transfers, the appeal of Project mBridge for potential sanctions and endeavors of the correspondent banking system, which is practical mechanisms for imposing sanctions. Carsten was eager to direct attention to another Bank of International Settlements undertaking, Project Argo, which is, the Bank of International Settlements has 11 projects, 11 to 12 projects going on right now. They're all blockchain and CBDC related. And one of them is Project Argo, that could provide the basis for the essentially fintech concept of the international financials architecture he introduced in April. The Bank of France, representing the Euro system, the Bank of Japan, the Bank of Korea, the Bank of Mexico, the Swiss National Bank, the Bank of England, and the Federal Reserve Bank of New York are the participants in Project Argo. No BRICS members are a part of that project. Project Argo maintains the correspondent banking system. So, the Bank of International Settlements apparently built a project for the BRICS nations that they're distancing themselves from. But they haven't mentioned they are distancing themselves from it. But the news was coming out of the Bank of International Settlements is stepping down from, mBridge, which they're not. But they have said they don't work with sanctioned countries, which is odd, because inside of BRICS nations, there are sanctioned countries. One of the founding members is Russia. They're sanctioned. But then they have Project Argo, which is for the Western countries, which they're moving forward with. But the other project, mBridge, which ironically was a part of Ethereum as well, is getting dropped, apparently. But R3 Corda was a part of it as well, which is also very odd, because R3 Corda was a part of that scenario as well. R3 Corda is trying to sell themselves off. There's too much happening. Right now, at this particular moment in time, there's too much happening. There's too much happening. There's too much, not only coincidence, but coordination happening. Too much manipulation happening, corruption happening at a very particular moment in time right now with the elections. Around the elections, there's too much happening is what I'm trying to say. Now, moving away, and the banks that are a part of it, I mean, Project Argo, for example, the Bank of France is a part of Project Argo, another project that the Bank of International Settlements is doing. The Bank of France, the Bank of Japan, the Bank of Korea, the Bank of Mexico, the Swiss National Bank, the Bank of England, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and it goes on and on and on. And that's the Western banks. But just to point out, the Bank of International Settlements has not said, just to point out, because there was misinformation inside the news. The Bank of International Settlements has not said they're moving away from mBridge. How the misinformation started was when they were asked, do you work with sanctioned countries? And because the Bank of International Settlements answered with, we don't work with essentially sanctioned countries, the news and everybody else inside of social media ran with the story, the Bank of International Settlements is leaving mBridge behind. Because they responded with, we don't work with sanctioned countries. They didn't clearly say, we're leaving mBridge. They said, we don't work with sanctioned countries, which made everybody run and start tweeting out. The news started spiraling inside the crypto space. They're leaving mBridge. They're not leaving mBridge because they haven't stated they're leaving mBridge. They said they don't work with sanctioned countries. It's just wordplay at the end of the day. So keep that in mind as well. They're not leaving mBridge. They're just wordplaying it. They were asked a question, which they responded with a manipulated answer. They said, do you work with essentially, you're creating mBridge. They said, you're creating mBridge, and mBridge is for the BRICS nations and sanctioned countries, which they responded with, mBridge is not for essentially sanctioned countries, and we don't work with sanctioned countries. But in reality, it is. mBridge is a part of BRICS and so on, or BRICS nations are part of it. So they're not leaving mBridge, just from a perspective. Misinformation again inside the crypto space. They're not leaving mBridge. They just responded the question that they were asked, a very manipulated answer, that mBridge is never been designed for sanctioned countries. So keep that in mind. If anybody's trying to tell you they're leaving mBridge, they're not leaving mBridge. They answer the question with, mBridge was not designed for sanctioned countries, and we don't work with sanctioned countries. They never said we're leaving it. People just ran with the misinformation. Now, before we go through the next news topic on tonight's live, let's go to the comment section first. Let's see what's going on here, and then we go through that. Let's see what's going on here. Let's see. No. Scott is right, Scott. Nice one, bro. A phrase used by the Demonic Knights Templar, which translates to, in this sign you shall conquer. Ah, makes sense now. Or while these sanctioned countries move away from the Bank of International Settlements, and it doing so, not using misinformation. Oh, sorry, I misunderstood. No problem. Is this bad for XRP? No, it's not bad for XRP in any sort of a way. Bad for Ethereum if that does happen, but not for XRP. But no, it's not bad. Now, you're good. Don't worry about it with XRP. You're always good with XRP and Ripple. Always remember that. Now, Ripple. No Ripple. Crypto.com. Crypto.com is playing chess, while the SEC is playing checkers. Because, so the SEC sent a Wells notice to Crypto.com, which Crypto.com, instead of waiting for the lawsuit to happen, they decided to sue the SEC and go after Gary Gensler, where Crypto.com said, why does essentially Ethereum get a free pass? Why is Ethereum a cryptocurrency? Is what Crypto.com said. When they got a Wells notice from the SEC, Crypto.com said to themselves, why wait for the SEC to sue us when we can just sue them right now? So they countered essentially the Wells notice and said, we're coming after you because you're manipulating the crypto space, because you're stating assets, crypto assets or securities, but you can't give us a definition. The definition you've used previously in courts have backfired on you. And why is it that Ethereum is not a security? What qualifies Ethereum to not be a security? Why does Ethereum get a green light for an ETF and so on? What makes it different? What makes Ethereum different to essentially other crypto assets in similar move, like AVAX? What makes Ethereum different to AVAX? Why is AVAX a security and if Ethereum is not? Or why is XRP a security and Ethereum is not? Or why is XLM or XDC or Solana or whatever? And now Crypto.com decided to one-up the SEC again by essentially acquiring an SEC. This is why I say the SEC is playing checkers while Crypto.com is playing chess. Crypto.com acquires an SEC registered broker, Watchdog Capital, to expand offerings in the US. Because the SEC was going to make life difficult for Crypto.com after they sued them, Crypto.com decided, well, we're just going to one-up them. and just buy essentially an SEC registered broker. In a bold and strategic move, Crypto.com has announced the acquisition of an SEC registered broker dealer and a member of the FINRA and the SIPC Watchdog Capital LLC. This acquisition would enable Crypto.com's new subsidiary to offer equities and essentially equity options, among other things, to eligible traders inside the United States. The acquisition is set to significantly enhance Crypto.com's products and offerings by introducing a robust array of investment channels, including stocks and options, especially designed for eligible traders inside the United States. We are aggressively working towards integrating traditional financial tools with digital financial capabilities, and we are doing so while maintaining our focus on building responsibly, with the necessary licensings and registrations to operate as an industry leader, said the CEO of Crypto.com. The announcement further included that additional information on the new products and services available, including when, how to begin trading, will be shared eligible customers of broker-dealers. Travis, the managing director and global head of capital markets of Crypto.com, stated, with this latest acquisition, we take another big step forward in offering a top-tier global financial trading and service solutions. With this acquisition, Crypto.com is poised to meet the growing demands for diversified investment options in the cryptocurrency market space, effectively essentially appealing to both retail and institutional investors. By leveraging Watchdog capitals and capabilities in the platform, it aims to solidify its position in a competitive landscape, while also adhering to the regulatory standards mandated by the SEC, because it's an SEC registered broker. This development underscores the evolving nature of digital asset platforms as they transition towards compliance and broader spectrums of financial services. Commenting on this acquisition, Crypto.com's CEO said the acquisition will help it offer stocks before the end of this year. Crypto.com is going to be offering stocks before the end of this year. It's going to become a crypto app and a stock market app. The trading platform said the latest update comes aimed at a series of new milestones it has inked recently. These include the launch of its CFTC regulated up-down options and a partnership with PayPal. Notably, the acquisition follows after the exchange sued the SEC earlier this month. The exchange is challenging the regulator's overreach concerning digital currencies oversight. So, Crypto.com is trying to one-up the SEC, knowing that the SEC is going to be suing them somewhere down the line because they sent them a Wells notice. So they decided to sue the SEC before the SEC sued them and started, 21 questioning the SEC. Why does Ethereum get a free pass? What makes Ethereum different to other crypto assets? And so on. And now they're essentially acquired a SEC fully licensed broker. They're going to be offering a lot of services inside the United States through an SEC broker, which means the SEC can't sue them for that because it's an SEC regulated broker that they brought out. Genuinely, the SEC is playing checkers and Crypto.com is playing chess. Now, moving away from Crypto.com outsmarting the SEC to a new stablecoin that is backed, by the way, by Van Eck and State Street. There's a lot of stablecoins coming out all of a sudden. A lot of stablecoins. But before we go through that news, let's go inside the comment section first. But there's a lot of stablecoins coming out. This one's backed by State Street and Van Eck, which is a big move. While these sanctioned countries move away from the I read that one already. Make me mod so I can kick out the commodities. Taylor, relax, mate. Wow, incredible. Recording.com. Yes, it definitely is. Going back to this now. Injective. What is your opinion on AVAX? Great project. AVAX is I've always said this, AVAX is a very, very underrated project, believe it or not. I know AVAX is ranking quite high on CMC, but it's an underrated project because a lot of people, essentially talk about Solana's chain, or they talk about the Base network now, which they're great in their own aspects. But AVAX gets looked upon, they just look past AVAX. AVAX has a lot of institutions and banks on it. For example, JP Morgan or Citigroup. And there's a lot of other banks and institutions on AVAX as well that are using it to build on it. The financial system is actually using AVAX to build upon it. A lot of people don't know this. So look, it's an amazing chain, amazing project. And it does have a very, very big future ahead of itself. As long as they maintain themselves and regularly keep themselves updated in terms of security and so on. But these are all facts. Citigroup is essentially using AVAX on a subnet green. JP Morgan is using AVAX on a subnet green. They're a great chain, great chain. Now, smart move, definitely. Injective is what we're talking about next. Injective launches AUSD stablecoin backed by Van Eck and State Street. Injective, a leading decentralized finance DeFi platform, has officially launched AUSD. Its first native stablecoin developed by Argo and fully categorized by essentially with the US dollars. AUSD is managed by Van Eck and the custody is by State Street. This initiative aims to bridge the liquidity gap between decentralized and traditional financial markets, offering seamless transactions within the Injective ecosystem without needing for the bridging. AUSD's Injective is essentially native stablecoin designed to provide stability and liquidity within the DeFi platforms. Unlike volatile cryptocurrencies, AUSD is fully backed by the US dollars, ensuring that each AUSD token maintains a 1-to-1 ratio peg with the US dollars. This essentially stability makes AUSD an attractive option for traders and investors seeking to minimize their risk while participating in the DeFi ecosystem. The launch of AUSD is supported by significant partnerships with Van Eck, essentially a prominent asset management firm, which it is, and State Street, which these are two big firms coming out of a stablecoin or backing a stablecoin. A leading financial services company, Van Eck manages the AUSD stablecoin, leveraging its expertise in asset management to ensure robust oversight and street growth. State Street provides the custody solutions, ensuring the secure storage and management of underlying US dollar reserves backing AUSD. AUSD is fully collateralized by the US dollars, meaning for that every AUSD token issued, there is an equivalent amount of US dollars held in reserves. This essential collateralization ensures that the stable value of AUSD, providing users with confidence in its reliability as a medium term of exchange and store of value within an Injective ecosystem. And one of the standout features of AUSD is its seamless integrations within the Injective platform. Users can transact with the AUSD without the need for cross-chain bridges, enhancing transaction speed and reducing complexities. This native integration facilitates a smoother trading experience, making it an easier and more user to move between decentralized and traditional financial market spaces. Amazing. We have another stablecoin coming out essentially inside the market space. I think by the end of the year, we're going to have 10 to 20 stable coins coming out from different angles, because they're not the only ones that are coming out for stablecoin. Yes, Ripple is also coming out for stablecoin, RUSD, which is going to be amazing. RLUSD is going to be amazing. And they're not the only ones. There's this one now coming out as well. There's a couple of more that's coming out. There's the Sol USD that's coming out as well that I saw recently. Quite a lot of stablecoins. We don't need that many, to be fairly honest. We don't need that many stablecoins. What we do need is regulations and policies, not 25 different types of stablecoins. What we need is regulations and policies. Now, moving away from the new stablecoin that's coming out backed by Van Eck, which is quite big, and State Street, which is also big, to Coinbase. Coinbase wants the world to be so crypto-friendly that they're committing $25 million to the Fairshake PAC for the 2026 midterm elections. So the Fairshake PAC essentially is a wallet that all these crypto companies feed into to feed into the politicians for pro-crypto regulations and policies. Any politician that's pro-crypto gets a little bit of a donation from this PAC. And that's why you're seeing Congress members becoming pro-crypto, because they're getting paid off in donations. Some might call that bribes, but in this case, essentially it's called donations. If you want to get a politician to pass any law, pay him off. It's the oldest trick in the book. Coinbase has announced a significant financial commitment of $25 million to the Fairshake PAC, aimed at supporting pro-crypto candidates in the upcoming 2026 midterm elections. Coinbase is donating that much amount of money already. We're not even in 2025 yet. We're still in 2024. We still got to go through 2025, but they're putting money aside for 2026 so that the elections that do come up in 2026 for midterm elections are still going to be remaining pro-crypto moving forward. It just shows the amount of damage we went through with Gary Gensler, that crypto companies are trying to make, crypto safe even in 2026 and beyond. They're donating from now. So things like Gary Gensler never happen again. This pledge follows a series of donations to the cryptocurrency exchange has made to the Fairshake during the current election cycles. In a blog post, Coinbase emphasized the importance of this contribution, stating that the stakes in this political landscape are too high to remain passive. The company essentially aims to contract with, it describes it as an influence of anti-crypto politicians in Washington, D.C., particularly during the tumultuous periods that the presidential election is going on right now. Fairshake PAC has emerged as a prominent player inside the political fundraising, having raised over $200 million for this election cycle with backing from the well-known entities inside the crypto sector, including Ripple and the 16Z. While the Super PAC cannot contribute directly to candidates, Fairshake has used its resources to run advertisements targeting opponents for cryptocurrencies, which is true, because if they make a direct essentially donation to these candidates, then obviously it looks like, a bribe. But how they do it is a loophole through the campaigns, essentially. The campaigns of advertisements is how they can't just walk up to the politician's table and say, here's some money, bring some legislations for crypto, because that'd be genuine bribe. But how you do it through the law is by doing targeted campaign adverts and donations and so on. Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong asserted that the result of the upcoming US elections will reflect a significant pro-crypto sentiment within Congress. And he claimed that regardless of the imminent elections outcomes, the moment of crypto voters base will continue expanding. The crypto voters is already a force to be reckoned with, Brian Armstrong stated in a recent post on the media platform X. Now, moving away from essentially the Coinbase news, which is interesting that they're making donations already from now for 2026 for crypto candidates, to Franklin Templeton, because something I rarely share, very rarely share on this live, is crypto gaming projects. Mainly the crypto projects that I do share are all financial based, and they all have VC money, a lot of VC money, which means they don't need your money, which means they already have money to develop and then somewhere down the road launch. But all the projects that I've shown, and talked about, on this live, have always just been financial related, because that's my number one category, financial crypto projects. Because money going digital is the most important thing. And then second ranking is data, because data is very important. Data is going to be the backbone of everything as well. And even Saudi Arabia, a country filled with oil to the brim, mentioned that data is the next oil, which it is. So finance is the number one category inside the crypto space, and data is the number two category inside the crypto space, and Web3, AI, and so on rank below it. But and tokenization is just another form of finance, and it's in the same category as finance. Tokenization, if you're wondering, it's just a new avenue stream for finance. Now, what I'm going to be sharing to you is, and the reason why I'm sharing you a game project is because Franklin Templeton is backing a crypto gaming project. The randomness of that is insane. That an asset management company like Franklin Templeton backing a gaming project. And by the way, this gaming project has raised quite a lot of money. Franklin Templeton launches tokenized money fund on Base as well. Sorry. I got the two companies wrong. The second news is Franklin Templeton. The first one is Van Eck. Van Eck is the one essentially investing into this gaming project. So the massive asset management company, Van Eck, is the one that's essentially backing into this gaming project. Van Eck's private crypto fund has invested into a gaming startup called, which I've never heard of in my entire lifetime, Gunzilla Games. Essentially marking the asset manager the second bet on Web3 enabled games. Van Eck mentioned today, the game essentially Gunzilla is the creator of the Off-Grid, a dystopian cyberpunk shooter where players earn Gunzilla native gun tokens. And Van Eck's Matt from Van Eck said on a post on X that we're into this gaming project. We've invested into the backbone of this gaming project. And we see crypto as a tool to enhance gaming experiences and improve monetization and strategies. If you're somebody that's big inside the gaming sector of crypto, this could be the project for you to look into. Gaming startups attracted $517 million in the third quarter of 2024, according to data from venture capital firms. In March, Van Eck invested into Parallel, a Web3 card game where tradable cards are represented on-chain in NFTs. Parallel $35 million funding round also included contributions from Solana Ventures and Coinbase-based ecosystem funds. Gamers have been building systems to enable selling in-game items for decades. Adding Steam's peer-to-peer gaming marketplace has seen more than $32 billion in trading volumes. Blockchain can solve gamers' desires for transparency and control in gaming items. Off-the-grid players earn gun tokens, which unlock in-game items that players can hold in Web3 wallets. Players also use gun tokens to purchase in-game items directly on the off-grids essential Web3 marketplaces. Gunzilla's marketplace are operated on Avalanche, AVAX, subnet called Guns, according to Matt, essentially from Van Eck. The blockchain component of OTGO is a technical solution to creating a marketplace for players to trade cosmetic items, an ultra successful essentially model pioneered by Steam and others, Maximo and Matt said. Gunzilla brought on Richard Morgan, author of The Altered Carbon, and director Neil to lead the grid's creative design. And in 2022, Van Eck launched this digital asset fund that they're investing into the crypto projects with. So Van Eck, knowing as essentially a massive asset management firm, has a crypto fund. This is the second time Van Eck has invested into a gaming crypto project. So if you're somebody that's big inside the gaming sector, well, there's a gaming project right now being backed by Van Eck. If you want to go check it out, go check it out. For me, gaming projects are not it, but I thought I'll share it mainly because Van Eck is behind this project. If there wasn't a massive asset management company backing this project, I would have never mentioned it to anyone. But the gaming industry is going to become massive. Genuinely massive. And Van Eck's behind this crypto project. So you might want to go check it out if you want to go and check it out. Now, moving away from that project and going to the Franklin Templeton news now. Franklin Templeton is launching a tokenized money fund on Base. This is why I got the titles wrong. Franklin Templeton is launching a tokenized money fund on Base. Franklin Templeton is launching his tokenized money fund on Base, Coinbase's layer 2 network, the asset manager said today. The Franklin On-Chain US Government Money Fund is the first tokenized fund to launch on Base, a Franklin Templeton said on a post on X today. Created in 2021, the FOBXX has previously launched on blockchain networks including XLM, Polygon, and ARB. Franklin Templeton essentially is unique among tokenized fund managers in outsourcing a meaningful portion of reporting requirements, such as share ownership records typically handled by off-chain transfer agents, to blockchain networks and public ledgers. We are currently the only product with the ability to use the public distributed ledger technologies for official transaction records keeping, said Franklin Templeton's head of digital assets, to Cointelegraph. The launch of FOBXX on Base indicates the United States regulators are considering Base's public ledger to be a legitimate instrument for financial bookkeeping. Money funds generate low-risk yields for investors by holding highly liquid assets such as short, essentially dated treasury bills and commercial paper. Franklin Templeton's FOBXX currently has a net asset of approximately $435 million and has been generating unrealized returns of about 4.7% as of October 2024. It is accessible through Franklin Templeton's Benji investment platform. The Base network essentially marks Franklin Templeton's latest efforts to enhance the accessibility of its tokenized asset fund. Since 2023 launch, Base has emerged as Ethereum's second most popular layer 2 scaling solution, with a total value locked of approximately $8 billion, according to L2Beat. ARB also leads with an upwards of $13 billion in TLV, the data shows, and tokenized real-world assets from money funds to artworks represents a $30 trillion market opportunity globally. Colin Butler, Polygon's global head of institutional capitals, told Cointelegraph, demand is surging for products that are tokenizing T-bills and other highly liquid yield-bearing assets. FOBXX's top rival is BlackRock's USD institutional digital liquidity fund built, with assets under management of approximately $530 million, according to the new data that came out. So Franklin Templeton has chosen as their new or next house to settle into Base Network. They're seeing Base Network as the best network for them to be able to expand on their money tokenized fund assets. Now, if anybody wants to go for Franklin Templeton's tokenized assets, you would have to do through the Benji app. And the Benji token is not available to the retail public section, but if you want to, through the United States, through registered brokers, you can access that tokenized fund. But you can't just do it if you just sign up as a regular person. But that is what's happening on the Base Network, which is great news for Base Network, but it also shows credibility for one major thing, which is public chains. For the longest time inside the crypto space, a lot of people claimed that why would banks or institutions use public chains when banks and institutions can create their own chains? Well, this is another example that they're not creating their own chains. They're just using the public ones, the same ones we have access to. As I've said many, many times, why invent something that already exists? Because a lot of people did say inside the crypto space for a long time and still do claim that why do banks and institutions need to use these crypto projects when they can create their own chain? Why invent something that already exists? And this is another example of public chains being used by major financial institutions. Now, moving off the Franklin Templeton news to the SEC and Ripple and Grayscale, by the way. So Grayscale has essentially a fund which they're turning into one big ETF. And that one ginormous ETF is going to be essentially Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and a multitude of other cryptocurrencies. Now, for a while now, the SEC hasn't looked into this essentially ETF that Grayscale has been filing into, until now. The SEC reviews Grayscale's proposal to convert GDLC fund, opening doors for XRP ETF approval. The SEC is now looking at the filing from Grayscale, the same filing that has the words XRP for an ETF. The US Securities and Exchange Commission is reviewing Grayscale's proposal to convert its digital large cap fund into an ETF. This comes after the SEC confirmed that it had received the New York, essentially, Securities and Exchange's OCRA proposed rule change, seeking to list and trade Grayscale's multi-coin fund shares, which seeks to list and trade shares of Grayscale's multi-token fund. Notably, the application filed under Section 19B1 of the 1934 Securities and Exchange Act and Rule 19B4 allows self-regulatory organizations such as the New York Stock Exchange to propose rule changes. Notably, the SEC has announced that it is seeking public comments on Grayscale's proposal to list and trade the Grayscale Digital Large Cap Fund, GDLC, as an ETF. The notice is an informal proposal only, but it's been noticed. So Grayscale filing in this for an ETF, the SEC didn't bother looking at it until the New York Stock Exchange made contact with the SEC, is when the SEC said, fine, we'll look at it. Nate, essentially, the post that essentially was going on was, it was confirmed that the news with asserting that the SEC's acknowledgement marks the beginning of the official review process. If approved, Grayscale's GDLC would become the first multi-asset crypto ETF in the United States, providing diverse exposure to a basket of leading cryptocurrencies. Officials' review process, if approved, Grayscale's GDLC would become the first multi-asset spot crypto ETF in the United States, providing diverse cryptocurrencies. And the Grayscale Digital Large Cap Fund was introduced back in essentially February 2018. And this DLCF includes a blend of assets such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, and AVAX. As of now, the fund's total assets under management are valued approximately $558 million. Bitcoin and Ethereum make up the majority of the fund's holdings, accumulating 76.26% and 17.20%. Despite XRP's holding a noble fraction of the GLDC, the SEC's approval of GLDC ETF could potentially unlock the doors for significant institutional interest in XRP ETF. Looking at the regulatory point of view, this milestone would set a precedent for XRP in the US financial landscape, where the regulatory climate around cryptocurrency investments remains uncertain, but this can open the door. Furthermore, the approval could pave the way for more spot XRP ETFs, because if Grayscale's ETF large fund happens, then that means the other XRP ETF filings can also happen, and they can't be rejected. Because if this one doesn't get rejected, which by the way, the New York Stock Exchange has stepped in, which made the SEC even look at it. If that happens, then that means the rest of the XRP filings that have been happening, the two other XRP ETF filings that have happened, should be green lighted as well. Because what's the difference between their XRP ETF and their XRP ETF? There is no difference. Even though one is with a basket of cryptocurrencies, it's still XRP ETF. It's the same asset. And furthermore, the approval could essentially pave the way for more XRP ETFs, as earlier reported. Bitwise and most recently Carry Capitals have filed applications for their XRP-based ETFs as well. These companies aiming to launch ETFs, especially tied to XRP, submitted their applications earlier this month. However, the SEC has yet to acknowledge these filings. The SEC hasn't looked at those filings yet. But if this one gets approved, then they have to look at the other ones. And possibly due to the ongoing legal proceedings between the SEC versus Ripple case is why they haven't looked at them. But again, the only reason they looked at this one is because the New York Stock Exchange stepped in. Additionally, Ripple's CEO has also been very vocal about the potential approval of a spot XRP ETF inside the United States. Once again, he doubled down on his confidence, speaking at the 8th annual DC FinTech Week in a virtual interview with a leading news outlet. In this interview, Brad did say, and this wasn't, a time ago, this was about a week ago, when Brad said in an interview live, calling for the approval of an XRP ETF is going to happen. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. And discussed the growing momentum behind XRP ETFs and the likely impact on the crypto markets, especially the majority on XRP, Ripple's native token. Even Brad said it's going to happen about a week ago. And now that the SEC is actually acknowledging the Grayscale Large Fund ETF with Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, and AVAX. If this ETF gets passed, then there's nothing stopping the other two XRP ETFs. Also, if you know something for a fact, which is once we get to the Ripple news on this live, it's pretty much at the end of the live. So all good things must come to an end, which they have right now. You taught us important is to be first. So as you got your foot in the door, there's loads of stable coins coming out soon. What's holding Ripple back is releasing OLSD. It's important to get your foot through the door, yes, but it's also important. Sometimes slow is better than fast. I'll explain why as well. Sometimes slow is better than fast. Mainly because, for example, Tether, USDT, grew very fast inside the crypto space. But it started working with sanctioned countries, which has led to Tether being investigated by the US Treasury, which led to USDT not being accepted in EU market spaces because of the MiCA regulations. On the other hand, Circle's USDC worked with compliance and regulatory movements and moved very slow to expand itself. And that's why USDC is regulated to be inside the MiCA regulations EU market space, whereas USDT is not. So sometimes moving slow is better than moving fast. Sometimes if you move too fast, it can backfire. Keep that in mind as well. Yes, it's important about who's first. Very important about who's first. But your movements also matter, especially in a market where it's all tied with policies and regulations. Tiptoeing is better because you can pretty much stand on a mile if you stand on a minefield, it can backfire really badly inside the financial landscape. But sometimes moving slowly is better than fast. Smart move, very smart move. Nice, makes sense. No problem. AVAX, you told, yeah. Share the live, Miles in his zone, high quality material. Let's go share the live, Miles in high quality. Let's go. Be interesting to see what the SEC does with Grayscale. Absolutely, 100%. Miles is made over time. Exactly. Money is made over time. Facts. Good night, Miles and family. Great live. Thanks. See you tomorrow. Ian, see you tomorrow, sometimes usual. Thank you, Miles. Good night, Mike. See you tomorrow, but sometimes usual. Ray, take care, Miles and CMF. See you tomorrow, sometimes usual as well. If you're watching this for the first time ever and you're wondering who the hell am I and what is this, my name is Miles. I go by the persona Crypto Miles, and this is the CMF Live, a live essentially that I do every single night. And the CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family. I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, vital information for you to know about of how the world is transforming into a digital space. And this was episode 193 of the CMF Live. So if you're watching this for the first time ever on X right now, drop a follow, drop a retweet, drop a like, and tune in every single night. This is a free live that you should get involved in every single night. Don't be shy about it. Get involved inside the comment section as well. And we also have our own free, everything I do is free, by the way. But this live is free. We have our own free Telegram group. Amazing place to be. Everybody's very respectful as well. And we have our own Communities X page. So if you haven't joined this live's Community X page, go and join it. It's on my portfolio, the Communities X live page. And if you're watching this on YouTube, if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe and tune in every single night and get involved inside the comment section as well. So this was the CMF Live, episode 193. We're on episode 193 now. Absolutely amazing. Thanks, Miles. Good night, everyone. See you tomorrow. Orphan, see you tomorrow sometimes usual as well. Good night, Miles and CMF. See you tomorrow. Thanks, Miles, for a great live. Let's go. Free forever. See you tomorrow sometimes usual as well. Thank you, Miles, for a great live. Interesting news tonight. Let's go, Jason. See you tomorrow, brother, sometimes usual. Another phenomenal, outstanding live tonight, Miles. We all appreciate you. Night, everyone. Joe, let's go. See you tomorrow, sometimes usual. Good night, Miles and CMF. Jason, see you tomorrow, sometimes usual as well. And on this live, we talked about XRP ETFs regarding Grayscale's digital fund. We went through news topics regarding Van Eyck backing a gaming project. We talked about Franklin Templeton launching on the Base network. We talked about Coinbase essentially putting $25 million down for 2026 elections for cryptocurrency policies. We talked about Injective launching a new stablecoin backed by Van Eyck and State Street. We also went through the news topic of Crypto.com acquiring an SEC broker. We talked about essentially mBridge and the Bank of International Settlements. We went through the news topic of Donald Trump celebrating Bitcoin Satoshi's white paper anniversary. We talked about Iran versus essentially Israel, the alleged retaliation that's going to be happening very soon. We also talked about on tonight's live regarding Florida's chief economic officer revealing how much the state has invested into cryptocurrencies and also policies that's possibly coming out of essentially Miami, Florida. We also talked about Chris Lawson, his predictions in the market space moving forward. We talked about the SEC and how much damage they've caused inside the crypto space. Essentially a report that came out from the Blockchain Association based out of the United States. We also talked about the fake Satoshi that's just came out of the UK. And we talked about iBit's $3.3 billion surge. So you went through all these news topics on tonight's live. Drop a follow, drop a like if you already haven't. Retweet, like, comment on X. Follow me on YouTube if you're watching this for the first time ever. And tune in every single night. Good night, Miles and CMF. Jason, see you tomorrow sometime as usual, brother. Thanks, Miles. See you tomorrow, Miles and CMF. Ghost want to see you tomorrow sometime as usual as well. Have a good night, Miles and CMF. Stormy, see you tomorrow sometime as usual as well. I'll see everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. CMF, have a great day or a good night.